Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Shabbat Show. Such an honor to be with you again. It's amazing how quickly these weeks are flying by. Great to be with you on another episode. We're getting into the world of summer for those who had the opportunity last week, of course, to celebrate Shavuot. Happy holidays. We're entering into the summertime right now, and what's happening just sort of around the world is still in our eyes and still in our sights. As you know, thank God tonight, Israel announced that it's reaching a ceasefire with Hamas. And for those who have been watching it closely, for those whose hearts are very much in the West, even though they find themselves in the East, or say in the East, even though they find themselves in the West, we've been watching closely to what we've been seeing as this incredible week has gone on with the Israeli army doing everything that they can to protect the citizens. And so much of what we see really is only a piece of the story. So much of what we see on the news or we hear about, bombing here, going here, knocking this down, is just sort of one piece of a larger story. Tonight, we're going to sort of widen the lens a little bit and speak about some of the hidden heroes of Israel, of the Jewish people, commandos and spies. Of course, the show is dedicated once again as a program of the Carl Enoch Goldman Center for Jewish Values, dedicated by Jay Goldman. Thank you, Jay, for your constant support for our program. It's also dedicated as a merit for the speedy recovery of Mayor Beryl Ben Leah. May he please put Mayor Beryl Ben Leah in your prayers. Maybe even now, say a prayer for him, or you maybe can write his name down and say something from over Shabbat. It's so important that we all take the time to pray for him, and we hope and pray that he has a speedy recovery. We are a beneficiary of dailygiving.org, and I encourage everybody to go to dailygiving.org and become a daily giver. It's $1 a day, and they give out the money for you, $1 a day. It's an amazing idea, an amazing charity. They're giving out money to over 40 organizations. It's an incredible organization. Check them out, dailygiving.org. dailygiving.org. And just to really speak about what we're going to talk about today. So just for me personally, just so you understand, like Mossad, are you joking me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have been watching the Israeli army, the Mossad, Sayeret Matkal, since I was a little kid. Like, it was like, sports, football, basketball, Israeli army. The stories of Entebbe, the stories of Eichmann, and how they went out to find somebody that was instrumental in the destruction of my own family in the Holocaust, stories of how they would smuggle Jews out of Syria, stories of how they smuggled people out of the Red Sea Resort, right? All this, 1981 bombing the Iraqi nuclear power plant. So much of the launch, if you will, of the state of Israel was nestled obviously and always with the guiding hand of Hashem, who is always the reason for our success. But from our grounding sort of eyes, stories of heroes, really regular people that did not have the training or the knowledge, but just heard the call of duty and stepped up and became real heroes and saved and protected and sacrificed. And as a kid growing up, I would know these stories. I would read these stories. I would know each unit. I would read books upon books. And to do a show like this is an absolute dream for me. I got to tell you, I'm like a kid in a candy store, to be honest. And I have such a tremendous amount of gratitude to the Project Inspire team, to Yossi, to Yaakov, and the entire team. When they told me what the show was about, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I got to tell you, just so you know, for those that are tuning in, whatever you see on these interviews is just a small sampling of a larger interview, because I just couldn't get off the Zoom with them. So if you go to shabbatshow.com, you get to see the full interviews. And it's only the beginning. This show could have been 7 hours long if I didn't have to make sure that I was not going to go out of bounds. But it's a great show. It's got great people. And the reason why the show is so great is because we're interviewing hidden heroes. These are real warriors for the Jewish people that sacrificed their life for the state of Israel and for the entire Jewish people. So I'm excited to do it. We're excited to be showing it to you. It's what we need to see. It's what we need to see now. like I said earlier, when you hear about, for those of you who are following, and you hear about how, the Israel said they're going into Gaza, and then they bombed the metro, which is the tunnel system that the Hamas had been building for years to try to smuggle weapons and hurt Israelis. And you're like, how did they know? This is all part of the work. Commandos, soldiers, spies, all part of this incredible army out there to protect us. And we've got a great film with a great show with different people. So I'm excited I hope that you're as excited as I am when you get to meet these great people. Our first guest is a man named Avner Avraham. Let me show you a quick intro video about who he is so you get a sense of who we're about to hear from.
A former Mossad agent and a renowned expert on Mossad operations who has consulted Hollywood screenwriters and producers, Avner Avraham is the founder of SpyLegends.com.
Former Mossad agent Avner Avraham.
Avner Avraham.
Avner Avraham. Introducing you to Avner Avraham.
Thank you very much.
He served as a consultant on the film, and he's an enormously interesting guy, and the show is largely based on his efforts.
One of the leading experts on Operation Finale in the world curated the exhibit that connected with the film's producers.
I spoke with the director, Chris Weitz, and he came especially from LA to see the exhibit, and he decided that we should work together.
Avner, who met many of the Mossad agents from the original mission, spent 2 months on the set of the movie in Buenos Aires, advising the filmmakers on how to make the story as authentic as possible.
Vous êtes ancien agent du Mossad, aujourd'hui fondateur du site SpyLegends.com.
A website that allows former undercover spies, ex-Mossad agents, as well as experts and journalists to go public with their background details, with their photos, so that movie studios, universities, organizations, synagogues, they can contact these ex-spies for speeches or consultations.
As a former Mossad agent, Avner Avraham is a renowned expert on Mossad operations who famously worked to reveal and publicize the insider story of the historic 1960 capture of the Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann. Avner is in demand for his fascinating insights into this rich chapter in Jewish history, and he's a Mossad legend. Avner's expertise in the area of Israel's spy exhibitions, together with his life experience, made him a world-renowned speaker in Mossad operations, exhibits, and movies such as Operation Finale, Operation Entebbe, and more. He's the founder of the Spy Legends Agency, and we thank him for partnering with us and helping us, him and his son, helping us book all of these incredible speakers. Check out this interview that I had earlier this week with Avner. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and of course your experience in the Israeli army. Give us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I retired 6 years ago from Mossad after 30 years.
Wow.
Yes,
wow.
And it was amazing time for me. And today I'm consulting spy movies in Hollywood.
Wow.
And I'm also a professional curator. I make a spy exhibitions.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about, the Mossad is the most, especially for the Jewish world, maybe the most fascinating thing that we all know is the Mossad. If you don't know what it is, it's this incredible, everybody wants to be on it. Like everybody wants to get the call. No, it's filled with intrigue. So share with us a little bit about what some of your experiences were in sort of during your work that you can share that's not classified, that you can share with us.
I would like to share with you one of the big secrets of the Mossad is the fact that we are, the Jewish people, we look different because we came from different places. Look at me, I'm a dark skin. My parents came from Iraq 71 years ago, okay? They came from Iraq. And when I grew up in a family that we spoke Hebrew and Arabic. So I have a perfect Arabic. Now think about languages. Languages in the Mossad are like weapons, okay? the fact that I can fly to, let's say, Arab country, and I can book a room in hotel, and I can say, Sabah al-Noor, Sabah al-Khair, Masa al-Khair, it means good morning, good evening. Maybe this is the big secret of the Mossad, and this is the story of the Jewish people, the fact that we look different. Yes, so I served for 28 years in the Mossad.
If to the rest of the world, it's so mysterious. Yes, we always, like, I've seen the Eichmann movies 50 times. Like, I've seen like all we have is the movies, and in the movies it's always dramatic, and it's always in this process. To us, it's shocking how you guys know everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that happen? That, we're right now living at a time that we can almost assume that the Mossad is very helpful in Iran. We can almost assume that what's taking place in Gaza isn't because they happen to know where everything is. What's the process? How does it work? Do you whatever you can share? I mean, obviously, but
okay. So I must share with you something about Syria, because unfortunately, I think it was last 2 weeks ago, the chief rabbi of Damascus, Rabbi Hamra, passed away. And I made an exhibition about how the Mossad smuggled the Jews from Syria, and I met him. And I know he got family also in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that when I made my research, first of all, the Mossad used to smuggle the Jewish families every Friday evening. Friday evening, the Syrian knew that the Jewish community don't do anything. They stay at home. So they asked them to leave everything. You cannot take with you anything. You leave the food, you leave everything. And you take the core of the family, okay? The father, the mother, the kids, and you disappear. A Mossad agent coming and take you, okay?
Wow.
And they smuggle them through the border with Turkey, okay? It's a long story for the next time. But there is a lot of stories that I can share with you. But for example, if we talk about the capture of Adolf Eichmann, it was a love story between a half-Jewish girl and Eichmann's son. She grew up in a German family. Her mom was a German was a Christian, but her father was half Christian and half Jew. He was a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
Okay. Now she went to a German film festival and she met a guy, and she started dating with him. And he told her, "My name is Nicholas Eichmann." The reason is because Eichmann escaped on 1950. He came with a fake passport. By the way, he got his fake passport from the Vatican, and the family joined him after 2 years, and they decided to keep the name Eichmann. And you know that during the war, Eichmann said, we have to kill first the Jewish kids, because this is the next generation. We have to kill the kids before. And the fact that we could capture him was because of his son, and his son decided to carry the name Eichmann. And
in the actual Eichmann story, the actual story that took place,
yes.
How long did it take for the whole story to develop? When the Mossad sent its agents down, what were they doing? How long was that operation? And usually, on Netflix, it takes less than 2 hours. But how?
Okay. So I tell you, I'm sure you remember after September 11 that many people saw Bin Laden every day. I believe that the CIA got more than 100 messages from all over the world that someone saw Bin Laden.
Right.
I think until today, there is people that send a message that they saw Bin Laden walking in the street.
Right.
Now, think about the Mossad. Thousands of information from all over the world about Nazis. You cannot handle with this. You cannot send agent to check all this information. So our story, the love story was 3 years before, on 57, 3 years before the capture. And then the father decided to send a letter to Germany, to the Jewish prosecutor, and the Jewish prosecutor, Fritz Bauer, forwarded this to Israel, and he came to Israel with this information. But the Mossad didn't send a real agent. They asked a policeman, a high-rank officer that came to Argentina for a conference, if he can go to the neighborhood and check the address. And then he said, no way, it's a poor neighborhood. I don't believe Eichmann is there. Only after 3 years, the Mossad sent Aharoni by himself, and he came with the Leica camera, and he needed to develop the picture in a regular Photoshop, by the way. It's very funny, you send a spy and he cannot develop the picture, and try to explain to the young generation what does it mean to develop picture and why we need to wait 2 weeks, and why after 2 weeks we lost all the pictures. So this agent came back with the pictures of Eichmann, and the Mossad compare the shape of the ear, of the left ear. They took pictures from the World War II, and the new pictures that Aharoni brought with him to Israel, and they found that it's the same person.
Wow. This is so fascinating, and I thank you so much for it, and there's so much more to talk about, but I want to be respectful for your time, and I hope we get to stay in touch and we get to have you back on again. We thank you for your service for all these years in ways that no one will ever know, and in many ways that's the highest level of service. They say the highest thing that you can do is to be able to do something good for someone else and nobody knows. So much of your life are things that no one will ever really know. And so we thank you. We're honored that you're on, and we thank you for what you've done and what you do for the Jewish people.
Thank you very much. And big love from Israel.
Thank you. And I hope you get to see the full interview. Go to shabbatshow.com to see much more. That was just sort of a small little piece of it. One of the things that I was gleaning from that interview as we were going through it is really the normalcy of the work. In fact, if you watch the full interview, he opens by basically explaining that whatever you think of a spy, James Bond jumping out of an airplane, flying, shooting as he falls down, tall, skinny, athletic, the whole motorcycles, it's not real, right? The real Mossad is much more focused, slow, deliberate work, blending. And you'll see later on in some of the interviews how that plays out, blending into society, being able to take information in, disappearing, speaking a normal language that people assume that you're from there, and the patience and the patience and the patience and the patience. And so much of the Eichmann story is that story of patience, checking, going down, patience. But really what got me, and I think we know this, so what I'm going to say may sound simple, but I think if we let it digest, we'll realize the power of it, is that spies, as opposed to other heroes or other people that sacrifice, they live secretive lives. So they're sacrificing life and limb, engaged in things that may be very boring for long periods of time, alone in a foreign country, away from family, away from their networks. They don't come home at the end of the night, kick off their shoes and relax with their spouse. And no one knows. Not until the operation's over, for decades sometimes. It's an amazing thing. The Eichmann trial was different because when they brought him back, so much of the work that takes place in the Mossad and other places is classified. And so really secretive. Check out this short video about Avner and his mission to tell over this Eichmann story. Check this out.
Eichmann. Hiding in the shadows of Buenos Aires under an assumed identity, Eichmann was abducted and smuggled to Israel, where he became the first Nazi to be indicted by the newly formed Jewish state. His charge? The systematic, cold-blooded murder of 6 million men, women, and children. Now, in a world premiere exhibition, brings to life this chilling episode in Operation Finale.
it is an honor and a privilege to introduce Mr. Avner Avraham.
Former Mossad agent, he worked as an advisor on the film.
Avner Avraham is the curator.
Though we're treated by a special guest, Avner Avraham.
Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Avner Avraham.
Welcome everyone to the talk show here at the 92nd Street Y. This is a special event tonight that's honoring this show was assembled by him. All of the documents and artifacts that became declassified, as well his own efforts like Indiana Jones, searching the world for ways to tell the story.
And this lovely girl, Sylvia Herrmann, she grew up in a Christian German family, but her father was half Jew, a Holocaust survivor.
For discovering the original documents surrounding the historic 1960 capture of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann.
Working on this operation for 8 years, I became the world expert in this story. I made a small exhibition in the Mossad headquarters 8 years ago.
Right.
And the Prime Minister Netanyahu asked me to come to the parliament. Today we have a traveling huge exhibition in the state.
An ex-Mossad agent called Avner Avraham, who is the kind of world expert on the mission and who mounted the exhibition that's currently touring the world about Operation Finale.
Who was there to catch us every time that we messed up our Hebrew lettering, which we did very often.
I feel lucky because I feel that my mission is to tell the story of the Holocaust. This is the secret, because it's a spy movie, but the audience learn about the Holocaust.
I think that no one wrote the whole story. And I find almost every week new details about the story.
But Avraham says the capture of Eichmann is only one part of the Holocaust story, and he feels that part of the weight of history is on his shoulders.
They start asking him a general question from your age, the size of your shoes, and immediately what is your number of the SS in the SS file. And he said exactly the Eichmann number. And he understood that he made a huge mistake, and he asked for a glass of red wine.
A master planner of what the Nazis called the final solution, their plan to eradicate Europe's Jews.
In Israel, we didn't mention his full name in the exhibit. We just say Eichmann.
Because to use his full name
make him a regular man. This is one of the most important stories of the Jewish people. My mission is to tell the story of Operation Finale because the capture goes together with the trial.
Amazing. So powerful for those of you who are in any way connected to either of the stories, but especially for those of you who are descendants of Holocaust survivors. This cuts into a much deeper place. And just so you see the worlds coming together, and you'll see this again throughout the show, this incredible world of the Jews in Nazi Germany, and then just a few years later, the Jews on the other side as the agents that are capturing Nazis. It's so incredible. You know, in many ways, the Mossad is just one part of a larger way of reaching higher, of not allowing yesterday to determine tomorrow. We've got this great song that speaks a little bit about this concept of reaching for bigger things. Check out this wonderful song that we have for you today.
I'm shooting for the moon tonight. I ride the winds at the speed of light. I've set my goals, I made my mind. And if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. We're gonna make it to the top. I'm shooting for the moon tonight. And if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. Looking up, standing standing on the ground, me and my dreams, galaxies apart. But I know, somewhere deep inside, I've got the strength to get that far. Climbing on a ladder in the sky, though I'm not an angel, maybe I can fly. Pushing through, still another mile, all I gotta do is try. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, I ride the winds at the speed of light. I set my goals, I made my mind, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. We're gonna make it to the top. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. Sending up yet another prayer. Father, I know you believe in me. When it's rough and I'm feeling doubt, you can raise me up above the clouds. I can feel the power of a dream, giving me wings, taking me beyond all the pain, all the broken hopes. Gonna leave it all behind. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, I ride the winds at the speed of light. I set my goals, I made my mind, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. We're gonna make it to the top. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. Never gonna break apart till I reach my destination. Never gonna lose the spark in my soul. Gonna be a shining light, gonna be an inspiration. Never giving up the fight towards my goal. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, I ride the winds at the speed of light. Set my goals, I made my mind, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. Gonna make it to the top. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. I'm shooting for the moon tonight, I ride the winds at the speed of light. I set my goals, I made my mind, and if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. And if I miss, I'll make it to the stars. And if I miss, I'll make it to the stars.
Thanks, Michal Portansky, for that song. And that's really very much in line with what's happening here. It's really, if you look through the history of the Mossad, the history of the Israeli army, history of the state of Israel, and the obvious history of the Jewish people, is this idea of shooting for the stars. It's something like that, I think, is something that we all should think about in our own lives. The concept of thinking past what's possible. God's with us, anything's possible. What we're seeing is missions and people that have extended themselves beyond what's possible. Of course, it's now Thursday night, so we'd love to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. If you haven't yet, please go on to our platforms. You can go to my Facebook page, or you can go to Zoom and just wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and we'll get that right back to you. And it is now time for Kahoot. It's 8:30. Let's get Kahoot going over here. For those who are going on to your computer, Kahoot IT, if you don't have the app ready, you should get it. Type in 811-7622, 811-7622. Shabbat Shalom to Jerry and Eileen Hirsch in Milwaukee. Thanks so much for joining us. Shabbat Shalom to Ken Winkler in Atlanta, to Michael Weingard. Shabbat Shalom to you in Germany. Shabbat Shalom to the Novak family from Toronto. Shabbat Shalom to the Silvers in Highland Park. Shabbat Shalom for all those that are tuning in right now. We see some of our old people joining into Kahoot. Please feel free to send us a Shabbat Shalom. Go to Kahoot, 811-7622, 811-7622. We're going to get started in just a minute, give people a chance to tap in to this week's Kahoot. Last week, I think we had, was Rachel? Who won it last week? I think Rachel won it last week. See some of our usuals are here, so it's going to be a pretty competitive night tonight. So let's get rolling. Let's give it 10 more seconds. See, The Sheplitzes are on right now. The Edison Adlers are on. We're going to get ready to roll. We got some serious Winning No Matter is back. Bubby R is back. Patriots Rock, of course, after Susie. We got some significant players that are back in the Kahoot space. If you're watching, it's going to be a great game. So let's get rolling. Let's go. Let's get Kahoot on. First question. Let's go. Here goes. How do you say spies in Hebrew? Spies, miraglim, einayim, or ramai? How do you say spies in Hebrew? Spies, einayim, miraglim, or ramai? Shabbat shalom. 10 seconds. Shabbat shalom to Debbie Laufer. Shabbat shalom to Bet Zuckerbrow. Shabbat shalom from Smithtown. Rana Adler. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, 2 seconds left, 1 second left for the first question. The answer is Miraglim. Very good. Most people got that one right. Let's see how we did. Winning No Matter on top, Rachel S. I think last week's winner. I Stand With Israel. Edison Adlers and Bubby R. Guys, I want to let you know, be careful for Bubby R. She's going to climb the leaderboard. Let's go. Next question. Which physical character trait of Eichmann confirmed his identity? This is good. His nose, his walk, the scar in his left hand, or his ear? This is a great question. Kudos to the Project Inspire team. How did the Mossad know that it was Eichmann? His nose, his walk, the scar, or his ear? Shabbat shalom to Rita Rubin from upstate New York. Aaron Case from Toronto. Shabbat shalom to you. How do we know it was Eichmann? This is a good question that it was actually in the full interview for those who watch it. The answer is his ear. Very good, most of you. His ear, his left ear matched. Rachel S. on top. Winning No Matter. Edison Adlers. I Stand With Israel. Bubby R. I'm telling you, Bubby R. Let's keep on rolling. Number 3. How was Osama bin Laden found? He tracked his son's cell phone. Guantanamo Bay detainees gave the courier's name. CIA agents placed audio bugs around the property, or drones spotting him walking around the compound. You gotta know your spy history on the show. Just letting you know, for those that are tuning in, the level of knowledge you need. This is like Jeopardy to be able to compete in Kahoot. How in the world did they find Osama bin Laden? And the answer is Guantanamo Bay. Wow, it stumped our leaders. What is this going to do to the leaderboard? Let's look. Wow. Sarazin just climbed. Eminem. Rachel S. holds on with Winning No Matter and Edison Adlers. We have Sarah ZN. I said Sarazin. Sarah ZN, who is officially on fire here in Kahoot. Okay. Last lap. Where in the Torah do we first find spies? Noah sent his sons to see the evil of the generation. Jacob's sons scouted Egypt. The Jews sent spies in Moses. Or Joshua sent. This is a tough question. Where do we first find spies? Noah, Jacob, Moses, or Joshua? Who sent in spies first? Here we go. Winner for this week is, the answer is yes, Moses. Moses. The famous spies, Tisha B'Av. You should turn to Tisha B'Av show. Hopefully we won't have it this year. We'll be in Israel. Number 3 is the Edison Adlers. Number 2, I Stand With Israel. And the winner of this week's Kahoot goes to Eminem. Wow. Eminem, identify yourself. Winner No Matter. Sarah ZN. Eminem is the winner of this week. This is fun. I don't know if you're having as much fun as Kahoot as I am having on Kahoot. M and N. Yeah, winners, go to email at info@projectinspire.com. Interesting, on the chat, Ellie Block is arguing that Joseph called his brothers spies. Oh my gosh, that's the Mandelmans. That's amazing. The Mandelmans are M&M. This is great. So congratulations, guys. Big, huge win. You upset some of our leaders from the past, but if you keep on watching, the games will continue. Our next guest incredible person, Rami Sherman. He was born in 1953 on the kibbutz Lahavot HaBashan. His parents were Holocaust survivors. He came in 1946. Understand that that was a northern town that was getting shelled on all the time. He spoke earlier, for those who are going to watch this longer interview, about what's going on now in Gaza and how he feels for them, because that's how he grew up. In 1972, he enlisted in the army and was accepted to an elite unit. It's called Sayeret Matkal. It's really the most elite unit in the Israeli army. In 76, when the Air France plane was hijacked and rerouted to Entebbe, he was the operations officer of the unit. That was under the command of Yoni Netanyahu, alav hashalom. In his capacity, he was involved in preparing for this operation. In the mission, he was a commander, and together with 33 soldiers, got those hostages home alive. It was an incredible story for an incredible person. Check out this incredible interview with Rami Sherman. Tell us a little bit about your service. I know that you served in the Army at an incredibly high unit. Share us a little bit about, you and your service, that we can get a better appreciation for what the service you've done for the Jewish people through Israel.
I grew up in a very military tension at my childhood, and then 72, I joined the most elite unit on the Israeli army. At 76, I was on the front of fighting with the terrorists in Entebbe when we released 104 hostages from the terminal over there in Entebbe.
When you're in the plane and you're landing, right? And if I remember the story, there was an issue and you had to land earlier and you had the lights, and it wasn't an easy, even landing. But as you're coming down, how do you get the courage to do this? How do you have, it's one thing to train, but where does the courage come from to be able to take on these missions that are so dangerous, that are so high risk at 23 years old?
I grew up in a kibbutz where I was born, in an atmosphere that we should do whatever we could for the state of Israel. Mm-hmm. And if it's in your blood, in your gene, this word, it gives you something to stand on your foot, whatever you are. They knew that they defend the state, their family, their friends. It was part of my childhood. The second thing, which I think gave me courage, gave me some strength to do it, that almost everyone I found myself fighting against terrorists. So you should run into hotel in Tel Aviv, probably you remember Savoy Hotel. Sure. It's strange you to fight against unknown situation, unknown people. I didn't know how that looked like Africa, not only the Ugandan army's soldiers. It was the first time I was in Africa.
Right.
So that is the second thing. The third thing, I think it's helped me a lot because I was in a duty over there. As an operation commander, I was occupied so much by thinking what I forgot, what I have to tell to others before, what I have to do so and so. So if you are active and not free of thinking, it helps you to cross the fear.
What was it like when you landed and there was confusion everywhere? Was it just following orders that you didn't know where anybody was? What happened? If you could share this a little bit. I know it's such a complicated question.
I will tell you, I was landing on the first Hercules who landed in Entebbe. And as we stopped by the end of the runway, we went out, only 33 soldiers. The atmosphere over there in Entebbe, it was so beautiful night. a lot of stars, full moon, quiet. It wasn't a feeling that we are landing in an enemy land. It was a beauty and relaxing after very many hours of flying, which is very difficult flight. We haven't got enough time to talk about it. Immediately, everything changed in my head. I felt that we are going to fall. It's going to be catastrophe again, as it happened a year before when we tried to save life of high school student on a northern city in Israel called Ma'alot. And unfortunately, almost 25 high school students, they were killed. And we felt 25 high school students, teenagers, they were killed. And now I thought it's going to be happen again because we meet the Ugandan soldiers who surround the terminal. But we drove, we stopped the cars next to the main doors, and it was quiet. The surprise of the Ugandan soldiers and the terrorists and the hostages and the Ugandan in the control tower was the key for succeed on the operation.
Wow.
And now it's a question, who is killing who? Who is killing first? We knew from our experience, the moment the terrorists will recognize that we are there, the first action would be to kill the hostages. From experience, we knew that. So the question, who is shooting first, it's another key. And the surprise, it's helped you to be the first one. And it took only about 5 to 7 minutes where most of the terrorists and the Ugandan who were around, they were killed. And after 52 minutes only, from the moment the first Hercules landed in Entebbe, where I was, the first Hercules with the hostages took off from Entebbe on the way back home. Only 52 minutes.
Wow.
All the operation, which I still remember, took about 52 minutes. And on that point, I would like to put one, maybe two important story, a Jewish story, because we are on Shabbat show. First of all, I'm a second generation of Holocaust survivors. My parents lost most of their family in Poland during World War II. And my last duty was to lead the hostages from the old terminal to the plane who wait to take them out. And to see hostages walking out with personal bag, some of them without shoes, the mother hold the baby on their hand. Immediately, the story of the Jews who walked toward the crematorium, who arrived with train to Auschwitz, either to Bigland, whatever, awake in my head. But together with a very warm feeling of now we are different. Now we are soldiers of the Israeli army, of the state of Israel, the Jewish state. And we are here to save life, which is a very much a Jewish statement.
So first, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your service and for being an inspiration to all of us. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And I also wish you only good things for Ad 120 Shana. That was Rami. What an incredible story. And again, I really hope you guys go to the shabbatshow.com to hear the full interview. My favorite part of the interview, which we didn't have in here, so you'll have to go there, was at the end. I called him a hero. That was a mistake because he stopped me and said, "I'm not a hero. I'm a regular man." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. You're a regular man." The thought to go down and to really that whole concept of going down and being able to save people that weren't even Israelis, they're just Jews. It's so powerful. There's a great sort of cross story that you'll see between the first Avner and between Rami, because they in a way overlapped. Mossad was very involved in Entebbe. It was there was a lot there. So it was so interesting. I'll just share this one story that didn't come out, which is fascinating. Is that if you saw in the movie, they were wearing these white stripes. Well, in the real raid on Entebbe, you know, like those, I can't even picture them. Maybe you can picture them. You know, like those Sabra hats. If you remember, like the old Israeli, but wear these like white little caps, you know, like no brim, if you can picture it. Picture like Israel circa 1971. You know what I'm talking about? The Sabra hats. So the soldiers, when they landed, they had this issue that they were worried about, which is a lot of them were dressed like Ugandan soldiers. That's when they jumped in. That was part of their surprise. They weren't all in Israeli uniforms. And they were worried that in the thick of things, they would shoot each other. So what they did was they wore these hats. They wore these, what do they call them? Right, Kova tempels. Yeah, Kova temples. For those, as you're listening, Google it. So you can imagine these soldiers are coming in, these tough Israeli soldiers with like these, like, you know, grandpa hats. And that was, you know, what they needed to make sure that they would shoot each other. However, the hostages were all huddled somewhere. They look up and they see all these white people coming, white hats coming in. And they thought they were angels. And on the Hercules planes coming back, they're like, "Are you guys angels?" Like, they didn't know what was going on. They didn't see, and they didn't see the movie yet. They were just watching it live. It's such a cool concept that here you have these random Jews and they see all these angels coming in with guns, killing the bad guys. And they were commandos. It was really commandos. An incredible thing. Check out this incredible video. You know, there's so many different pieces to the Israeli story, but sometimes the story is much more mysterious for even the people that are actually living there. Check out this wonderful story about an individual in Israel that's coming home from a strange town. He's actually coming home from Ramallah. Check this out. amazing story. Everybody has a way back home. It's thought such a beautiful concept, especially speaking about a world where sometimes even in the secrets, there are things we don't know. But what a beautiful story here. Our last guest was a woman named Orna Klein. She was born in Beit Yani, a small village on the beach in Israel. At the age of 21, she started her career as a Mossad agent. 26 years, starting as a young woman and a wife and a mother. She became a woman of secrets. Friends and family never knew who she was. She lived alone. She spent hours on planes and travel. And she was able to learn how to live in the shadows. She has two amazing daughters that while she was able to be the spy, she was able to raise those daughters as well with her husband. And she really speaks very much about the reality of what it means to be a spy. Check out this wonderful interview with Orna. I would love to hear more about your background and maybe some of your experiences and your service to the Jewish people in the army. Maybe you can share with us any area that you want to discuss.
My parents came to Israel in 48 from South Africa as young people, as a married couple. We lived in a small village on the beach shore. And as everybody else, went to school, went to the army. I was an instructor in the army. Left the army, went to university as everybody else, and I hated it. I met my brother who already worked for the Israeli, the security forces. I didn't know where and what, but I told him, listen, you have to rescue me. I have to leave the university. I don't know what to do. So he said to me, you know what? They're looking for a woman. I'm not sure you'll get in. You'll have to pass a lot of, tests and all sorts of things. And if you'll succeed, then great, you'll leave the university. So that's how I started. I didn't know where I was going. And I went through all these tests and things, and they said, okay, on Thursday they told me, on Sunday you begin. So Friday morning I took the car, went to Jerusalem to the university, collected all my stuff, went back, said goodbye to Jerusalem for a while. Sunday, 8 o'clock, came to the place where they told me to be at, and went into a room full of guys sitting around the table with their names on, and me, the only woman. And a lot of people around us sat there. A guy comes up and said, welcome to the Mossad. And I almost fell off my chair because I had no idea where I was going. And that's how I started, actually.
Wow.
So
that's great.
That was my first day.
Is there anything that you can take us through, something that you can share with us that we can sort of live in your life for a few moments?
One of the first memories and things that we did do, and I can share, is bombing the Iraqi nuclear power. Back then, at the 80s, beginning of the 80s, that was one of the first things that ever, people spoke about. And we were part of that. Getting the information, not bombing, but getting the information, where it was, what were they doing, who was involved with it, things like that.
How do you get through these difficult times? You're sitting somewhere and you've got to grapple with the tension of the moment, maybe the consequences of what happens. And then the second question is, what drives you to keep on doing it?
Okay. You have to learn to live with the panic, with the worry, with the being scared. Many people tell me when I ask them, what do you think you need to be in order to become a spy? And a lot of people say you mustn't be afraid. So I said to them, wrong answer, because you have to be afraid, because that's one of your tools. And when you get afraid, you have to start asking yourself, why am I afraid? Am I afraid because of me? Or am I afraid because the surroundings? Have I got a right to be afraid? And you learn to live with the questions, and you learn to live with the tension. And that's part of your life. You become, that's who you are.
Well, since you are an instructor, can you share this? What does it take to be a great spy? What are some of the qualities that you look for when you're training people?
Okay. Firstly, it depends which direction they're going, because there are a lot of jobs, different jobs. So you need different qualities for every job. But if we, summarize it all, I can say one of them is you know, working with being afraid, being brave. You have to work by a plan and stick to it, but also know how to work around the plan. Because every time that we go and we work, we get a list of things that we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And everything is like there's a map, like a logbook. But there's always something missing and there's always a new thing that happens. And you always have to know when you need to stop and when you can continue and how. You have to be flexible with that. So that's another thing that you need.
And this is why this is so important, is that it's sacrifice that nobody can see. Right. And the reason why it's so important is because, and this is why we're doing it on this show, is because it sends a message to the rest of us. Be bigger. Be bigger. Israel is now in the middle of a crisis. Step up for the Jewish people. The neighbor needs you. Step up for the neighbor, right? Like when we get to meet people like you, it reminds all of us that there's more in us than we thought. And whatever we're sacrificing, you can always go a little bit further. And that's the story of the Jewish people. It's been the story of the Jewish people from the beginning. Hashem drives us to things that are lo yuman, but when you come out of it, we go, how did we do this? It's because...
And, you know, people really do. When we started talking, you said, you know, you hear all these stories. And when I lecture, and I lecture a lot about the people behind the work and the women behind, because a lot of people think that the women are doing different things, more sexual things, but the women are doing exactly what the men are doing. And I talk about the people, and I talk about, you know, the sacrifice and how, and we didn't do it because we felt that we are sacrificing. We really did it from the bottom of our hearts, of our beliefs.
Yeah.
It wasn't a game. And now when you see the politics and you see the pettiness and you see the power games and you see all that around you, you say, what's going on here? Yeah. Somewhere we lost our way.
Yeah.
And we really need to, you know, focus back in and change our ways, because Israel is not a regular country.
Right.
I mean, we're here for a reason.
Yeah. Orna, thank you so much for joining us. And really, your sacrifice for our people is inspiring, and we thank you for what you do, and keep on shining your light on this world.
Thank you very much, and let's hope for a better world.
Amen.
Amen.
You know, one of the things that I want to make sure comes out here, and this is why I think we're doing a show on the Mossad and on the commandos, and it's not just to have a historical show about what happened in the past. It's not just to have a show about units that are taking place in Israel. It's supposed to be lessons for our lives. If you really think about what was the success of a lot of these units, and if you really put it into our lives, what you find are some basic principles that have been with the Jewish people from the beginning of time. You know, we came out of Egypt, and what got us ultimately to get the Torah was this incredible concept of unification, of unity, of being able to see past ourselves for something bigger. When you look at the Jewish people throughout time, moments of crisis, moments of great need, are moments in which we naturally come together. And when we come together for causes greater than ourselves, and we sacrifice ourselves for those causes, God brings miracles. I don't think for one second that the successes of the Mossad or the commandos are only because of the hands or the minds of individuals. It is divinely orchestrated. There is no question that God has been moving his hand in the way that God does throughout history. And what that means for you is your own personal connection to God. However, what's so powerful about the show for me is that you meet people that are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. They're willing to sacrifice for Jews they've never met. They're willing to sacrifice for an ideal they believe is good for the Jewish people. And that concept, sacrifice for each other, belief in bigger mission. Understand that we are here and yesterday connects to tomorrow. And our history will shape our destiny. And to dream big and to overcome challenge. That's who we are. That's who we are from the moment we stepped out of Egypt to right now, today. In the state of Israel and in every other country in which there are Jews. And that's who we're going to be until God finally reveals himself and shows the world that he's the king of the world. We have to celebrate each other. We come from different backgrounds. We have to celebrate that. Celebrate who we are. Celebrate every single piece of our nation. That's what Shabbat is all about. It's about stopping and celebrating the different colors of our people. If you notice what a Shabbat table looks like, the different colors on the table, different foods that we eat. It's not one thing that we do. Everything comes together as a tapestry. When you spin through life, you think and see yourself, your way of thinking, your talents. But when you slow down, you start seeing all the colors, all the moments of the week come together in one perfect array. Menucha, which is a word for rest, doesn't mean rest, sleep. It means pulling back. The famous rabbi, I believe the Sfas Emes says, it means pulling back and seeing how all the pieces connect. That's the uniqueness about Shabbat. That's the uniqueness about our people. Different backgrounds, and it all connects. If you remember what Avner said, one of our greatest strengths in the Mossad was that we're different. We have different backgrounds. We speak different languages. And the Jewish people can come together and achieve incredible things. So maybe this week we should think about that. What are my beliefs? Can I sacrifice myself more for the person next to me? Have I been able to be unified with my fellow Jew, whether they live in my neighborhood or across the world? And together, if we're willing to give a little more for each other, we're stronger. And hopefully God will look down and say, look at my people. Look at where they're at. Look at how much they want to be there for each other. On behalf of me and mine to you and yours, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. May we love and respect each other and be there for each other. May we learn the lessons of people that sacrifice so that we can sacrifice more. I hope and pray that next week we get to do this show live from Jerusalem, but if not, we hope to see you here. So on behalf of all of us, have a wonderful weekend, good Shabbos, and Shabbat Shalom.
We together call it Shoot, but every generation they take one, raising the haters. Then Hashem hit the pavement, blazing the savers. Then the world asks where they went. Patience are faithless. The Torah gave the whole world a facelift. If hatred is baseless, we take it, erase it, and exchange it for that master goal. We don't forget wherever we may go. There is only one place we know, and it's called Zil. We won.
And you're just falling down, falling down. I pick you up, and if you feel like you're outnumbered on a